Hi, everybody. So this week for our lab, we're going to be talking about filtering, which is the primary thing we'll be discussing in SPSS, and then also when to choose chi-square versus t-tests. Oh, I'm not in presenter mode. I should go in presenter mode. Hold on. My bad. All right, cool. So you can filter data to compare only a few selections of a given variable, which is what we're going to talk about today. So filters in SPSS allow you to compare certain levels of a variable while you can remove or filter out others that you're not interested in. So for example, in this IHNO data set, which is on SPSS, and we've used it during some of the asynchronous lectures, we can, and the example I'll use for today's lecture is we're going to try to directly compare psychology and pre-med majors, but we're not interested in including biology, sociology, or economics students. So there's a majors variable that has those 5 options, and we just want to compare 2 of them. And we want to determine if psychology and pre-med students have different reasons for taking the statistics course. And we're gonna talk about how to select those 2 variables. So in SPSS up top, if you go to data, you can choose select cases. And there's a if condition is satisfied button. And if you check that and then select if, you're able to, down here, select, it has a list of your variables. You're able to select a variable and then say which part of that variable you want to use. So the major variable has variable 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's like pre-med, psych, bio, whatever the other 2 are. So you can put in here major equals 1 or major equals 2, and then click OK. And that's going to tell SPSS to only analyze selections or participants that chose major 1 or major 2. So what that looks like is if you were to go to your variable view, it'll have a whole bunch of lines through through items. Oh, it got big. Through items that you're not using. So 31 down. And you can look over here that it's only selecting majors that are 1 or 2. The ones are up here. So this means the filter worked. If you see all these dashes through here, that's always a good way to check. So now that we've selected our data, we want to know what test do we use. So we want to compare 2 categorical variables to determine the relationship between them. So I know it's been a bit, and we talked about a lot of these tests. Would we use a t-test, chi-square, or ANOVA? I know none of you can answer me, so I'm just going to go give the answer. It's a chi-square test of independence. So if you remember, chi-square is used to determine if there's a significant relationship between 2 categorical variables. So in this case, the categorical variables are what is your major and what are the reasons you took the course, and the reasons are like interest, out of interest because I have to, or because my advisor recommended it. I think those are the 3. So you're comparing major to reasons, and those are 2 categorical variables. So our null hypothesis would be that there's no difference between majors and the reasons that they're taking the course, and the alternative would be that there is a difference. So when you run chi-square with a filter, you would start off by running a chi-square the same way that we learned, which, as a refresher, is analyze, descriptives, crosstabs, and then you want to add your variables to be analyzed, which are major and reason. Doesn't quite matter the order. And then now you have to add the newly created filter as a layer. So when you make a filter, which is what we did over here, it creates a filter variable in your variable list. So you want to add that as a layer down here. Now, before you click OK, we have to go to statistics and cells, which is buttons that are off screen here. And you want to always check observed, expected, and total. And then for the statistics, you want to check chi-square. That way we get a significance test. So our output would look a little something like this. The cross tabulation window, this window, will tell you how many frequencies and percentages, or will tell you the frequencies and percentages of how many individuals are in each group. And the chi-square test table will give us the observed chi-square test statistic, the degrees of freedom, and the p-value. So if you look over here, this is our chi-square value or degrees of freedom, and then our significance test or p-value. So because our p-value is less than 0.05, we reject the null. We see that there actually is a significant difference in reasons for taking a course between majors. Now this probably makes sense if you're thinking about real world stuff. Psychology majors versus pre-med. If you're in pre-med, most of your classes are kind of laid out for you, right? You kind of have to take it for your major. So that's a significant difference that we would expect. So this is how you would write up the results in APA formatting. As always, you want to talk about what test we used. So chi-square test of independence, why we did it. We did it to examine the relation between academic major and the reason for taking a statistic course. And then we want to say if it's significant or not, and then say the results. So the relationship between these variables was significant, chi-square, the degrees of freedom, the n value, chi-square statistic, and then the p-value. I usually go to 3 decimals. Okay, so what if we want to do a different question? What if we want to know if biology and sociology majors differ based on their baseline anxiety scores, because anxiety was measured in this data set. So now we have 2 groups, biology and sociology, that we want to measure on a continuous variable. So if you've got, what's the word I'm looking for? If you have 2 categorical groups and you want to do a continuous scale, we would use a t-test, independent samples t-test. Now you could also use a one-way ANOVA, but that's typically used if you have 3 groups or more. So if we wanted to look at all 5 majors, we would do an ANOVA, but we just want to look at 2, so we can do a t-test. So how do we filter it out? For t-test, it's a little different. You don't really have to use that filter feature. But first we have to make sure that we remove our filter. Otherwise, it's only going to analyze people that were in majors 1 or 2, which is psych or pre-med. So like I said before, it creates this filter variable. So you can go to the variable view and select that variable and then clear it. And then it goes away and your filter's gone. So now you're looking at all the data. But we just want to look at those 2 majors. What were they? Biology and sociology. So in order to do that, t-tests are great because they allow you to select which variables you want to look at when you do the test. But before we run the test, we have to see how our variables are coded. So we have to go to variable view, and then we have to find the column for majors, or the row for major, and then we go to the values section of the major, and you click the little 3 dots to expand it, and then you can see what each category is. So 1 and 2 are psychology and pre-med, which we know because we just did. So 3 and 4 are biology and sociology. Lovely. So now that we know that, we can go to our t-test, which is analyze, compare means, independent sample t-test. Our dependent variable is anxiety scores, so we put it in the test variable window. And then our independent variable is major. So now when you first select major, it'll come up with 2 question marks, and you have to identify how you want the t-test to look at it. And this is where we put 3 and 4, which is the values we got before. I think I've gone over this with you all. Now, this is a way so that this is how you filter without using the filter function. So it's just going to be using those 2 variables. So our t-test output, which is a little bit easier than chi-square output, you get the mean, standard deviation in the group statistics section, and then in the independent samples tests section, you have your t-value, degrees of freedom, significance, and then some other stuff that you can or don't really have to report on all the time. So if we wanted to run this, or if we wanted to write this up in APA, we see that these are our results. So our null hypothesis, before we go to the APA write-up, sorry, our null hypothesis was that there was no difference, so that the majors are equal. in their anxiety scores, and the alternative is that they're not. So we found that the t-value was this, and the p-value was 0.12, which is greater than 0.05. So we retain the null. There's not a significant difference in anxiety. I guess they're both pretty anxiety inducing, as all of college is. So when you write it up, again, you say what the test is, you say why you're doing the test, you put your descriptives in parentheses, and then you write the values of the test after you say whether it was significant or not. We've gone over this a whole bunch. I'm sure you're all pros by now. And that's it. Pretty short recording this week. We're gonna do an example in class, the worksheet, like we always do. But first, I need you all to go to Blackboard and download the Rogers and Milkman SPSS file. So just, how we always download the files. I want you to download the worksheet. I'll load the answer key up after lab on Tuesday. Now, I also posted the Rogers and Milkman article that goes along with the SPSS file. You don't have to read it. It'll give you some interesting context and background, which I'll go over briefly. But it's just if you're interested, you can knock yourselves out. And just as a friendly reminder, so lab reports are due Tuesday, November 3rd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, like I said, if you need an extension, let me know. I know Tuesday is election day, that Tuesday that it's due. And if you're all working on it on that Tuesday, I could totally see how that day would distract you or just make you not want to work. So if that comes up and you need an extra day or 2 or 3, whatever, just let me know. But again, just email me. If I don't get an email from you and it comes in late, then I'm just going to assume that it's late. So just if you need an extension, just let me know. Cool, that's it. All right, so I'll see you all on Tuesday. Get so excited. See you later.